What began as domestic unrest inside Iran is now evolving into something far more dangerous, a confrontation that is steadily crossing the line between internal instability and regional escalation. The warning issued by Iranian authorities that American and Israeli forces could become legitimate targets marks a critical shift, not just in rhetoric, but in strategic posture. This is no longer a message aimed solely at domestic audiences, it is a signal directed outward, designed to reshape calculations in Washington, Tel Aviv, and across the Middle East. Iran's leadership understands that protests alone do not threaten the survival of the state, but foreign involvement does. By framing potential intervention as an act of war rather than political pressure, Tehran is attempting to raise the cost of external action before it even begins. This tactic has been used before, but rarely with such direct language. The implication is clear. Any attempt to exploit internal unrest will be met not with restraint, but with retaliation beyond Iran's borders. This escalation comes at a moment when the global system is already under strain. Early 2026 has been defined by rising military posturing, declining respect for international norms, and a growing willingness by major powers to test limits. In this environment, Iran's message fits into a broader pattern, one in which deterrence is no longer quiet or implicit, but loud, public, and deliberately provocative. The goal is psychological as much as military, to force adversaries to imagine worst-case scenarios before acting. For the United States, the situation presents a complex dilemma. Publicly supporting protest movements aligns with long-standing narratives about democracy and human rights, but doing so in a volatile region carries strategic risks. Any perception of direct involvement, whether through intelligence operations, cyber activities, or covert assistance, could validate Iran's claims of foreign interference. Once that narrative takes hold, Tehran gains political justification for actions that would otherwise appear reckless. Israel, meanwhile, sits even closer to the edge of this escalation. Iranian threats against Israeli targets are not theoretical, they are embedded within a long history of shadow conflict, proxy warfare, and strategic signaling. Heightened alert levels and defensive preparation suggest that Israeli planners are treating the rhetoric seriously. In a region where response times are measured in minutes rather than days, misinterpretation becomes a genuine danger. What makes this moment particularly volatile is the intersection of internal pressure and external confrontation. Governments under domestic stress often behave unpredictably on the international stage. Escalation can become a tool of consolidation, a way to redirect public attention and reinforce internal cohesion. By elevating the external threat, leadership can frame dissent as betrayal and rally nationalist sentiment. This dynamic has played out repeatedly in modern history, and it rarely ends quietly. The regional implications extend far beyond Iran itself. Gulf states are watching closely, aware that any escalation could disrupt energy flows, trigger market instability, and force difficult security choices. Proxy networks across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen add layers of complexity, increasing the number of actors capable of triggering wider conflict. In such an environment, control becomes fragmented and responsibility blurred. Globally, the situation feeds into a growing perception that the rules governing conflict are eroding. When states openly threaten each other outside of declared war, it lowers the threshold for future confrontations. Deterrence becomes less about stability and more about intimidation. The danger lies not in a single deliberate decision, but in cumulative pressure, where each side believes escalation is being forced upon them. The Iranian warning also raises a broader question about the future of intervention itself. If domestic unrest increasingly triggers external involvement, and external involvement increasingly triggers military retaliation, then the space for diplomatic solutions narrows dramatically. States become trapped in reactive cycles, responding not to intentions, but to fears. In such cycles, restraint is often interpreted as weakness, encouraging further pressure rather than de-escalation. As 2026 unfolds, the Iran crisis serves as a test case for this new reality. It will reveal whether major powers can still manage escalation through signaling and back channels, or whether public threats and political posturing have already pushed the system too far. The outcome will not depend solely on decisions made in Tehran or Washington, but on how each side interprets the other's red lines and how much risk they are willing to accept. History shows that major conflicts rarely begin with clear declarations. They emerge from moments like this, where internal crises intersect with external ambitions, and where deterrence fails not because it is absent, but because it is misunderstood. Iran's warning is not a guarantee of war, but it is a reminder that the margin for error is shrinking. In a world where power is increasingly asserted rather than negotiated, even a single misstep could have consequences far beyond what any side intends.